Muscle cars have an undeniable allure. Their growling engines and aggressive designs epitomize power and style. But here's the truth. Not every muscle car is a winner. Some models not only failed to deliver, but also earned a reputation for being unreliable, underpowered, or poorly designed. In this video, we'll uncover 7 muscle cars you should avoid at all costs, with insights and reasons that'll make you think twice before buying. Before we jump in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss more eye-opening car content. Let's rev up and dive in. 1978. Ford Mustang II King Cobra. The Mustang is a name that commands respect, but the 1978 Mustang II King Cobra is a glaring exception. Released during the dark days of the 1970s fuel crisis and tightening emissions regulations, this car was more of a whimper than a roar. Why should you avoid it? Let's start with performance. The King Cobra's 5.0-liter V8 engine churned out a paltry 139 horsepower. To put that into perspective, even some modern compact cars outperform this so-called muscle car. The lack of power wasn't just disappointing, it was downright embarrassing for a vehicle wearing the Mustang badge. Beyond performance, the car was riddled with quality issues. Its interior felt cheap and dated, with materials prone to wear and tear. The body panels were notorious for rusting quickly, especially in areas with harsh winters or humidity. Styling was another sore point. While Ford attempted to inject some aggression with a flashy Cobra decal and faux sporty accents, these efforts felt gimmicky and failed to mask the underlying mediocrity. Enthusiasts and collectors often regard the King Cobra as one of the lowest points in Mustang history. 1982. Chevrolet Camaro Iron Duke. The Camaro is a powerhouse name in the muscle car world, but the 1982 Camaro equipped with the Iron Duke engine was an absolute flop. The third generation of the Camaro introduced a sleek, aerodynamic design, but this base engine option was a monumental misstep. The Iron Duke was a 2.5-liter inline 4 engine producing an anemic 90 horsepower. To call it underpowered is an understatement. This engine turned the Camaro into a sluggish, uninspiring drive. Accelerating to 60 miles per hour felt more like a chore than an adrenaline rush, taking over 20 seconds in some cases. Buyers expecting the raw power and thrill synonymous with the Camaro name were left bitterly disappointed. But the issues didn't stop at lackluster performance. The Iron Duke was also plagued by reliability problems, including frequent overheating and premature wear on engine components. Repairs were costly, and many owners found themselves pouring money into a car that simply wasn't worth it. If you're considering a third-gen Camaro, the Iron Duke version is one to avoid. Opt for the V6 or V8 models, which at least attempted to honor the Camaro's muscle car heritage. 1974. Pontiac GTO Ventura. The Pontiac GTO is often credited with starting the muscle car craze, but by 1974, it had strayed far from its roots. Pontiac's decision to slap the GTO name on the compact Ventura marked the beginning of the end for this legendary badge. The 1974 GTO came equipped with a 350 cubic inch V8 engine that produced 200 horsepower. On the surface, that might sound respectable, but in practice, the car's heavy curb weight and lackluster drivetrain significantly dulled its performance. Acceleration was sluggish and handling was uninspiring, making the driving experience far removed from the thrilling rides GTO fans had come to expect. The car's design didn't help its case either. The Ventura-based GTO lacked the aggressive, muscle-bound stance that had defined earlier models. Instead, it looked like a forgettable compact car with a few sporty touches tacked on. Many critics and enthusiasts saw this move as a desperate marketing ploy to capitalize on the GTO's storied name, rather than delivering a car worthy of the badge. Adding to the disappointment was the fact that the 1974 GTO marked the final model year of this iconic line, leaving fans with a sour taste. Today it's remembered as a cautionary tale of how not to handle a legendary nameplate. 1980, Dodge Aspen RT. The Dodge Aspen RT was Dodge's attempt to keep the muscle car flame alive in an era where emissions regulations and fuel economy concerns were choking horsepower. Unfortunately, this car fell flat on almost every front. First, the performance was dismal. Equipped with a 5.2-liter V8, it managed a meager 120 horsepower. Let that sink in. 120 horsepower for a muscle car. To make matters worse, its acceleration was abysmal, struggling to hit 60 miles per hour in anything close to respectable times. This made it feel more like a commuter car with a sporty badge than a genuine muscle car. Then there's the rust issue. The Aspen RT was notorious for rapid body panel deterioration, even in areas with mild climates. Add to that frequent mechanical breakdowns, ranging from engine failures to transmission issues, and you have a car that drained wallets and patience alike. Styling-wise, the Aspen RT couldn't compete. Its boxy and uninspired design lacked the bold aggression you'd expect from a muscle car. For a car marketed as a performance vehicle, the Aspen RT was a letdown in every conceivable way. Unless you enjoy endless repairs and disappointing drives, steer clear of this one. 1976 Chevrolet Chevelle Laguna, Type S3. The Chevrolet Chevelle nameplate was once synonymous with power and dominance on the streets, but by 1976 it was clear that the glory days were behind it. The Laguna Type S3, while unique in some ways, marked a significant departure from the raw performance that made the Chevelle legendary. The engine options were underwhelming. The 350 cubic inch V8 produced just 140 horsepower, barely enough to move the heavy Laguna with any sense of urgency. Coupled with poor aerodynamics and a cumbersome design, this Chevelle was more suited for a leisurely cruise than an adrenaline-pumping ride. The Laguna's polarizing design also didn't help its case. Its slanted front end and large bumpers were attempts to meet new safety regulations but ended up making the car look awkward and bulky. Inside, the cabin featured cheap materials and a lackluster layout, further disappointing buyers expecting Chevelle-level refinement. While the Laguna Type S3 did find some success on NASCAR tracks, its street version was a far cry from the muscle car legacy it was supposed to uphold. If you're a fan of the Chevelle, you're better off looking at earlier models that truly represent the muscle car spirit. 1982, Ford Thunderbird. By 1982, the Ford Thunderbird had undergone a significant identity crisis. Once a perfect blend of luxury and performance, the Thunderbird had transformed into a mundane, underpowered vehicle. Under the hood, the base 3.8-liter V6 engine churned out a paltry 110 horsepower, with the optional V8 offering only slightly better performance. For a car with such a storied history, this lack of power was a slap in the face to enthusiasts. The sluggish acceleration and uninspired handling made driving the 1982 Thunderbird more of a chore than a pleasure. The design was equally disappointing. Gone were the sleek, iconic lines of earlier Thunderbirds. Instead, the 1982 model sported a boxy, uninspired look that blended into the sea of generic sedans from the era. Even worse, the car suffered from poor build quality, with frequent electrical issues, engine troubles, and transmission failures reported by owners. The 1982 Thunderbird stands as a cautionary tale of what happens when automakers prioritize cost-cutting and fuel economy over preserving a brand's legacy. If you're shopping for a classic Thunderbird, skip this one entirely. 1971, AMC Matador Machine. The 1971 AMC Matador Machine was AMC's attempt to follow up on the success of the Rebel machine, but it ended up being a flop in almost every way imaginable. The car's 360 cubic inch V8 engine seemed promising on paper, but in practice it was anything but thrilling. Poor aerodynamics and a heavy curb weight meant that the Matador machine struggled to deliver the performance expected of a muscle car. Its sluggish acceleration and uninspired handling made for a disappointing driving experience. The styling was another major letdown. The Matador machine's design lacked the bold, aggressive lines typical of muscle cars. Instead, it looked awkward and bulky, with none of the visual appeal that muscle car fans crave. Inside, cheap materials and shoddy construction meant that the cabin aged poorly, with rattling panels and peeling upholstery becoming common issues. Ultimately, the 1971 AMC Matador machine failed to capture the essence of a true muscle car. Its lackluster performance, uninspired design, and poor build quality make it a car best avoided by enthusiasts and collectors alike. And there you have it, the 7 muscle cars you should avoid at all costs. Each of these vehicles stands as a reminder that even legendary brands can stumble when they lose focus on performance, design, and quality. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more straight-talking car content.